I hated Fortnite OG. It felt like the game had evolved to cater to a completely different audience than the one it originally started with, and alongside a slew of other issues, I felt that the return of Fortnite's original gameplay style spelled the death of the game in the near future. Then they added Peter Griffin, and I gotta say, I am hooked. Jokes aside, Fortnite Chapter 5 has breathed new life into a game that I thought was getting pretty stale. However, coming off the heels of Fortnite OG, a season that served both record player numbers as well as record player satisfaction from what I can tell, they might have changed too much too fast. People praise the return to form of slower, more methodical strategic gameplay, less obtuse crossovers that would bleed into that gameplay, and of course, the simpler and more straightforward map and weapon pools. However, for me personally, ever on the wrong side of every conversation, I gotta be honest, I like this better. Fortnite is at its best for me when it's more of an open world sandbox that you can choose to shoot people in. Yes, at the end of the day, it's a battle royale, and your goal should always be to eliminate all the other players, but I love the hijinks you can get up to between all the battles. Part of the reason I love New Age Fortnite, which I'll dub from like Chapter 2, Season 7 onwards, is the variety of it all. Not only was there new content being added every week or so, but they added mechanics that made sure that each match was wildly different and engaging, even when there was no new content to be found. And they really doubled down on this in Chapter 5. Several points of interest provide PvE challenges, daily quests are now per match, making them a little more involved as well as a little more rewarding, and each gun can now be customized with weapon mods in a series of different ways. Which, while I do find this system a little superfluous, it's just a touch more variety, giving little hints of new gameplay every match. Now the odds of you firing the same gun the same way at the same place are exponentially lower. It's not as consistently interesting as something like the augments from Chapter 4, which I was a big fan of, but it provides the average player more variety and the sweaty player slightly more choice should they choose to take advantage of it. And keeping in line with changes that give the player more agency, you can now also move while consuming healing items. A change that seems very small on the surface, but in practice removes one of the largest consistent sources of downtime in a game that is otherwise firing on all cylinders. One thing I hate more than anything in video games is pointless waiting. I don't know about you, but I play video games for entertainment, so when a game drags to a halt just to make me sit around and wait for the next bit of actual exciting gameplay to drop, I find that so infuriating. And I'm not talking like cutscenes, more so the stuff like the trailing missions in Assassin's Creed, those segments where the game provides you no form of stimulus aside from just pushing the joystick forward. There are ways to make these mission types more agreeable to your average gamer, but I find that all too often, games fail to make this stuff work. And downtime like this was one of my biggest complaints in Fortnite Season OG. Going from rocket ramming across a dense map at 100 miles per hour to just walking around in barren open maps designed for a building mechanic that most normies like me shy away from was not my favorite thing in the world. All of this to say that I am so grateful that Fortnite has reintroduced things like slap barrels and cars, not to mention all new movement options like the grapple knife, climbing built walls, or being able to combo shockwave grenades with the flow berries. It makes it just fun to move around. A game that can gamify its movement so that you are as engaged when just moving from point A to point B as you would be when in the middle of a climactic boss battle is a game that I can assure you I will love. And with Chapter 5, Fortnite just re-established its place on the interesting game movement podium for me. I have seen a lot of complaints levied towards the new slower movement and animations thrown into Fortnite and how they make complex building maneuvers harder to do and overall feel worse. But personally, I think that's a good thing. Complex movement mechanics being a thing that only the top tier of players can pull off is not a new thing for games like this, and to be completely honest, I will never complain about shit like this being hard to do. But for real, the game's leaning into a more fast-paced version of itself, and this is a sacrifice of that choice. And you at home might be thinking, how is slightly slower moment-to-moment movement better for a quote-unquote fast-paced game? And the truth is, it provides more weight to your choices. It feels like with the new weapons added in Fortnite Chapter 5 came an overall increase in player damage and power levels. Like, it's so easy to just get absolutely melted by someone who snuck up on you. And slightly slower movement in these individual engagements provides an environment where these small scale battles are still tactical and strategic, while in the big picture you can still move fast and get to new places easier. Or at least that's how I see it. I'm mostly a Fortnite casual, take my words with a grain of salt. And even if you choose not to engage with all of these new movement options, Chapter 5 has one of the most densely packed and interesting Fortnite maps to date. The scenery is gorgeous, the architecture is new and interesting while containing hints of older map staples, and the train alongside weapon mods are gonna go down as pretty unnecessary, with it most of the time rocketing straight into the storm, but I had fun whenever the map gave me the opportunity to play with it. In my time so far with Fortnite Chapter 5, I have had some of the most fun I have ever had playing the game. In fact, I spent most of my first play session just reiterating how much I enjoyed new Fortnite in comparison to Fortnite OG. But that brings me to the elephant in the room. Fortnite OG was easily the most popular the game had been for months. But Fortnite OG is also so ideologically different from Chapter 5 in every way. The most common talking point in my comments in reference to Fortnite OG was people talking about how they preferred the original higher stakes, slower paced combat in the early seasons. And this is why the game was so popular. But this season, Chapter 5, is definitely not catering to that audience. In my last Fortnite video, I talked about the nature of nostalgic reruns like this, and how bringing back Fortnite Chapter 1 only served to divide Fortnite's audience for good. With one chunk of the player base wanting a wild, ever-changing, high-concept arcadey shooter, and the other wanting a boots-on-the-ground, skill-based, more competitive battle royale. And we are seeing the results of this division right now. These two eras, while at their core being the same game, provide two different experiences meant for two completely different audiences. And back when this first dropped, people said that I was being a negative Nancy. But now that we're on the other side, I think it's clearer than ever that Fortnite OG is a different game. And if they do actually bring it back as a permanent game mode, I don't think it's controversial to say that it'll split the fan base permanently. Look at something like World of Warcraft. Blizzard added so much to the game over the years that people wanted to go back to when it was simpler, so they made WoW Classic. And then so many people jumped ship back to WoW Classic that now they are developing brand new content for a game that's whole gimmick is that it had none of the new content. I don't know what the future of Fortnite holds anymore. I was so sure a few weeks ago that a rerun of old content contextualized by all the scummy, questionable business decisions made by Epic Games spelled the game's doom. A more charitable interpretation was that by returning to Fortnite OG, they were going back to Battle Royale development being their main operation. But with the Big Bang event and all of these shiny new game modes being thrown in front of our faces like jingling keys in front of a toddler, I'm doubtful. Epic Games really seems to be doubling down on this whole Fortnite metaverse business. I have my reservations about any of these new game modes being worthwhile past the initial novelty of Lego building, but Fortnite, Guitar Hero, but Fortnite, racing game, but Fortnite. Call me crazy, but I don't know if making Fortnite into several different game modes is a good idea for routine biters off of more than they can chew Epic Games. Especially because in the process of doing so, they absolutely ruined the customization aspect of the game. Several skins can no longer be worn in all ages experiences, and they replaced the old loadout system with one of the most unnavigable menus I have ever seen in a video game. Seriously, I had my issues with the old locker screen, but this new one actively takes away any identifying features from the UI, which is crazy when most of the audience who is stuck with this game for a couple years probably has like hundreds of skins. For a game that's main method of income is a shop for cosmetics and customization, actively making cosmetics less usable and customization more complicated and confusing is a bold choice. But all in all, even with all of this considered, I am excited for the future of Fortnite, which is more than I could say a couple weeks ago. From where we stand, things could either get so much better or so much worse so quickly. So I look forward to seeing where this domino falls. See ya!